So are you saying that they're deliberately...
I am saying they are deliberately and corruptly and fraudulently milking the system, misery for the children and family, in order to line their pockets with money.
Is there another motive? Is there another reason why, you know...
Some of them are abusers, and the children are taken away. Now, an interesting thing we find out, and I have a case here with a little girl. She died, and I know her mother would like me to mention her, Helena. And she died after having problems. Basically, an anaphylactic shock is the simple way of expressing it in the hospital. Mm-hmm. But the hospital then treated her as if she was an epileptic and gave her the drug. She
didn't die from the anaphylactic shock then? She was still alive?
No, she was in a very bad state. But after that, she was having problems.
Brian, you're going to have to hold that story.
You're doing this deliberately.
Well, I don't do it deliberately, but we are going for another break now. Once again, if you'd like to text in your questions or comments to Brian Gerrish, please do so now. Just text 87778 with the word EDGE.
So
Welcome back to On the Edge with me, Theo Chalmers, and my special guest, Brian Gerrish. So, Brian, just before the break there, we were talking about this girl who suffered an anaphylactic shock.
Yes.
Was hospitalised.
Yeah, she was hospitalised, and then the medical team started to treat her with Epilim as if she had epilepsy. In fact, they tried to force that on the parents that the...
And Epilim is a anti-epileptic fit drug, is it?
Yes. And the girl was given large doses and subsequently died. And what then happened was...
When you say subsequently died, was this, you know, months later, weeks later, days later?
It was months later.
Months later, okay.
So she died, and the exact time of her death was not properly recorded, and it would appear that her parents were told that she was still alive when in fact she had been dead for some hours. And when the parents actually got her body back, the body was missing various organs, and the parents have never recovered some of the organs. They know that they were rapidly shipped off to other parts of the NHS. And the parents have been fighting for the truth to come out about the death of their daughter for 30 years. They are fantastic campaigners, and they've been helping a lot of other people. I can mention their names because they'll be delighted, I think. It's Derek and Joan By. And basically they have been trying to warn that children are being prescribed drugs in hospital for which there are no detailed dose rates. It's just estimated on the adult dose. And when children die, a consistent failing is that there is no paediatric toxicology, so there's no real analysis of what they died of. It sounds remarkable,
well, isn't
but
it the case that they can't test new drugs on children? Well,
this is part of the problem, but something else which we're seeing, and I think there was a BBC radio programme the other weekend talking about the testing of drugs, where it was pointed out that the pharmaceutical companies are not actually releasing the data from the tests they do have. But what was interesting about this is that we were sent an email this morning that there had been an article in one of the Northern Ireland papers where actually a compensation payment had been made for use of the drug Epilim. And I believe that you've got the ability to show that on the...
Yeah, let's see if we can show that image. Here we go. Ulster Girl, Ulster Girl awarded €500,000 settlement for birth defects.
Yeah. So I'm just pointing out that here we have things happening with children, the truth's not being told about what's happening to them.
And this is Epilim that was used for the mothers.
Yeah, and subsequently...
And it caused birth defects like thalidomide, is that what you're saying?
Yes. Now, if anybody's interested in this, they can research it themselves. But what I'm gently doing is moving people towards the fact that when we start to look at what's going on with the children, there's strange things happening with social services, we're seeing strange things happening even in NHS care, and I began by talking about basically discharge sheets not being filled in properly and the wrong drugs prescribed. But we can go to another extreme, and there is a very, very brave lady called Teresa Cooper, who was held in a children's home, Kendall House, for a number of years. She was regularly tied down and sedated with a cocktail.
I think once again I have to issue a statement that this is not necessarily the opinion of this programme or this channel.
Theo, this is not an opinion because the basic details of this are already in the press. I am going to be circumspect because there is a court process, a legal process happening, but I am able to say what has already appeared in the press. So whilst in care, she was fed cocktail of drugs, and when she was often unconscious as a result, she was raped and otherwise sexually abused. And Teresa is fighting very hard now for the truth to come out, because it involves her and other girls who are also in that home. Now, what is interesting is that when she came out of the home, and she quickly did a lot of research, including getting all of her medical records and the documents proving what had happened to her, and she had witness statements from other girls, she could not get a single policeman to act upon the evidence she put forward. So this is yet another case that when there is an abusive situation and one or other parent, or in this case, as she was a young lady, went to get justice, the doors suddenly come down and block it. It's happening with Anne and Holly Gregg. It's happened with Teresa Cooper. Yeah, it's happened even with the French lady. So there is a circumstance that when you have to describe it, you are seeing collusion between public bodies such as local authorities, NHS Trust, police, and the court system to prevent the truth coming out. Now, why would people want to do that? There is only one answer, and that is they have something to hide. They have something to hide.
And what do you think that might be, Brian?
If I want to give you the bottom line, we can say they're making bucks out of the suffering, or perhaps they're testing drugs on children and they don't want to admit it. But the thing that we know from some of these cases is that the children are being abused, and the aim is to cover up the sexual abuse. Now, I'm coming back to the beginning. I sat here and said I'm in a difficult situation because the secrecy of the family courts prevents me opening these files and showing you papers where I can prove this is just some of the cases we've got, just some of them. And I'm a newcomer to the scene. How many have you got? We've got hundreds.
Hundreds of cases.
Hundreds.
And the story is consistent, is it?
Well, if I take the Gulag of the Family Courts, which is a phenomenal book talking about it, and a gentleman called Jack Straw, who's done research over...
said Jack Frost?
I beg your pardon, Jack Frost. I must apologise to Mr. Frost.
And Mr. Straw, who I believe is a man of some power. Maybe
not. Then basically, a lot of very detailed work has been done on other cases. So I admit, and I'm very happy to say, that I've only been able to do some of the things I've been able to do by learning from the good work that's been done by people like Jack Frost and others. So if people are out there saying, well, Brian's a newcomer, I am, what have I got that other people haven't had? And that's this newspaper. We have dared to print what other papers will not print. And it's very interesting because at the moment the Procurator Fiscal's office in Scotland is using a law firm to threaten us in order to remove material.
Because you're obviously not being threatened since you've just...
Well, since we've got the documents and we've got the witnesses and we've got the post-mortem reports that show what took place, we would welcome further involvement of the police. So it's not a problem for us. Yeah?
Okay. So, look, I had lots of texts earlier on. I don't know if it's working at the moment, but I hope it is, so you can still text. I had lots of texts saying, what can we do?
Yeah.
You know.
The key thing is that we've got to spread understanding that there is a problem and the scale of the problem and the type of issues that are involved. And as I said to you, some of the cases involve things being done to children, which is pretty difficult to read. I find it difficult.